The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a soft hiss. Ambassador Tom Bradley walked inside, carrying a small briefcase in his right hand. His black suit looked simple compared to the colorful robes and metal armor worn by the alien delegates around the room. The chamber was huge. It could hold thousands of beings from different worlds. The ceiling curved high above, made of clear crystal that showed the stars outside. Floating platforms held representatives from dozens of species, each one looking down at the human ambassador with curious eyes. Tom stepped onto the central platform. The floor beneath his feet glowed with a soft blue light. He looked around the room and saw creatures he had only read about in reports. There were tall, thin beings with gray skin and large black eyes. Thick, hairy creatures with 4 arms sat next to insect-like aliens with shiny green shells. In the far corner, a group of floating jellyfish-like beings pulsed with different colors. "Welcome, human," said a deep voice from above. Tom looked up to see Commander Slick of the Vex Empire. The reptilian alien was over 8 feet tall, with dark green scales and yellow eyes that seemed to glow in the chamber's light. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together when he spoke. "Thank you for having me," Tom replied. He pressed a button on his briefcase, and a holographic projector rose from the center of the platform. "I'm here to present Earth's military capabilities to the Council, as requested." Slick's mouth curved into what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp white teeth. "Yes, we are very interested to see what your young species has developed. Please begin your presentation." Tom activated the projector. The first image appeared in the air above him. It showed a human soldier holding an assault rifle. The weapon looked small and simple compared to the advanced technology surrounding them in the chamber. A sound echoed through the room. It took Tom a moment to realize it was laughter. "What is that stick the human carries?" asked a voice from the left side of the chamber. Tom turned to see Hive Queen Nyx, an insectoid creature with a body like a giant ant and compound eyes that reflected the hologram's light. Her voice buzzed like a swarm of bees when she spoke. "It's an assault rifle," Tom explained calmly. "It fires metal projectiles at high speed using chemical propulsion." The laughter grew louder. Even some of the more polite species were making sounds that Tom assumed meant amusement in their cultures. "Chemical propulsion?" repeated Core 7, a being made entirely of living crystal. When it spoke, its voice sounded like musical notes played on glass instruments. "How wonderfully primitive. Do your warriors also fight with clubs and stones?" Tom changed the hologram to show a tank rolling across a battlefield. The massive vehicle fired its main gun, sending a shell flying toward a distant target. "This is our main battle tank," Tom said. "It uses a 120mm smoothbore cannon to fire armor-piercing rounds." Commander Slick leaned forward on his platform. "Armor-piercing rounds? You mean solid pieces of metal?" "Yes, sir. Dense metal cores designed to penetrate enemy armor through kinetic energy." The Vex commander's laughter was like the sound of breaking glass. "Kinetic energy. They still believe in throwing rocks at their enemies." Tom felt his face grow warm, but he kept his expression neutral. He had been warned this might happen. The galactic community had developed beyond kinetic weapons thousands of years ago. To them, human military technology looked like cave paintings. Compared to advanced art. The next hologram showed a nuclear missile launch. The rocket rose into the sky on a pillar of flame and smoke. "This is one of our nuclear weapons," Tom announced. "It can destroy entire cities." For a moment, the chamber fell quiet. Then Hive Queen Nyx began to buzz with what was clearly amusement. "Nuclear fission?" she asked. "How quaint. Our plasma lances can vaporize entire city blocks without leaving any radioactive contamination. Much cleaner, much more efficient." A delegate from the back of the chamber spoke up. Tom couldn't see the speaker clearly, but the voice sounded like wind through metal tubes. Our quantum disruptors can unmake matter at the molecular level. These nuclear devices seem rather messy by comparison. Tom continued his presentation, showing images of human aircraft, ships, and space stations. Each new weapon or vehicle brought fresh waves of laughter from the assembled aliens. They found human railguns amusing, human missiles outdated, and human combat strategies laughably simple. "Tell me," said Commander Slick, wiping tears from his yellow eyes, "do your soldiers still use swords and spears as well?" "Some special forces units do carry knives for close combat situations," Tom answered honestly. The laughter that followed was so loud that Tom had to wait several minutes for it to die down. Core 7's crystal body pulsed with different colors as it spoke. "This explains much about your species. You have achieved faster-than-light travel, yet you still fight like barbarians. How did you even survive long enough to reach the stars?" Tom looked around the chamber. Every alien face he could see showed the same expression, despite their different features. They thought humans were amusing, primitive creatures who had somehow stumbled into space travel without developing proper weapons. An alien that looked like a walking tree raised one of its branch-like arms. Perhaps they survived because their enemies were equally primitive. On a world where everyone fights with metal sticks, the one with the biggest stick wins. More laughter filled the chamber. Tom noticed that even the floating jellyfish creatures were pulsing with what seemed like amusement. "I have a question," said Hive Queen Nyx. "Why do you still use these ancient weapons? Surely your scientists understand energy manipulation. Can you not create plasma or particle beams?" Tom nodded. "We have experimental energy weapons, yes. But our military prefers proven, reliable technology. These weapons work in any environment, require minimal maintenance, and are cost-effective to produce." "Cost-effective." Commander Slick's voice echoed through the chamber. "They worry about the cost of their weapons, as if the price of victory can be measured in credits." A small round alien with purple fur spoke in a high-pitched voice. "Perhaps they are too poor to afford real weapons. Their technology does look rather inexpensive." Tom felt his jaw tighten, but he forced himself to remain calm. He had a job to do, and losing his temper would not help humanity's cause. The presentation continued for another hour. Tom showed videos of human military exercises, explained basic tactics, and answered questions about Earth's defense capabilities. With each new piece of information, the aliens seemed more amused and less impressed. When Tom finally finished, Commander Slick stood up on his platform. The reptilian alien was still smiling, showing all of his sharp teeth. "Thank you for this very entertaining presentation, Ambassador Bradley," Slick said. "Your species shows great creativity in making the most of limited resources. We will consider your application for protected status under the Galactic Defense Pact." Protected status. Not membership, not alliance, but protection. Like a child who needed adults to keep them safe, Tom packed his holographic projector back into his briefcase. Around him, the alien delegates were already talking among themselves, their voices filled with amusement at what they had just witnessed. 3 months had passed since Ambassador Tom Bradley's presentation to the Galactic Council. The video recordings of that meeting had spread across the galaxy, becoming a source of entertainment for many species. Alien children watched the footage and laughed at the funny humans with their primitive weapons. Commander Slick sat in his command chair aboard the Vex flagship destroyer. The massive ship was over 2 miles long, covered in dark armor that could absorb energy blasts. Its hull bristled with plasma cannons and particle beam arrays. Around him, the bridge crew worked at their stations, preparing for what would be the easiest conquest in Vex military history. "Status report," Slick ordered, his yellow eyes focused on the main screen. "Fleet formation is complete, Commander," replied Captain Zek, a younger Vex officer with bright green scales. 200 ships in attack formation. All weapons charged. And ready, Slick nodded with satisfaction. 200 of the Empire's finest warships, each one armed with technology that could tear apart asteroids. Against them stood a handful of human colonies in the outer rim, defended by ships that fired metal bullets like ancient warriors throwing spears. The main screen showed their target, New Terra, humanity's largest colony world in this sector. The planet looked peaceful from space, with blue oceans and green continents. Small space stations orbited the world, along with what appeared to be defensive platforms. Analysis of human defenses? Slick asked. Lieutenant Vex stepped forward. Holding a data pad. Minimal, Commander. 12 orbital platforms, each mounting what appears to be oversized kinetic cannons. Approximately 30 human vessels of various sizes. No energy shields detected. No plasma weapons visible. Slick's mouth curved into a predatory smile. Kinetic cannons. They really do believe in throwing rocks at their enemies. The crew around. The bridge laughed at their commander's joke. Everyone knew the stories about human weapons. Simple, crude devices that belonged in a museum, not on a battlefield. Open a communication channel to the human fleet, Slick ordered. The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of a human ship. The man who appeared was older, with gray hair and a lined face. He wore a simple blue uniform with the insignia of an admiral. "I am Admiral Ross of the Earth Defense Force," the human said calmly. "You are entering human space without permission." Slick laughed, a sound like breaking rocks. "Human space? This sector belongs to the Vex Empire now. I am Commander Slick, and I offer you one chance to surrender." Admiral Ross's expression did not change. "On what grounds do you claim this space?" "On the grounds that we can take it," Slick replied. "Your species has no real weapons, no proper defenses. We have seen your military presentation to the Council. Your metal throwing sticks cannot harm our ships." Behind Admiral Ross, other human officers worked at their stations. They seemed calm, not frightened as they should be. Slick found their confidence amusing. "Your energy shields may protect you from plasma weapons," Admiral Ross said, "but you have made a mistake in coming here." "What mistake?" Slick asked, genuinely curious. "Your primitive kinetic weapons cannot penetrate our barriers. Our plasma cannons will cut through your ships like cutting paper." "The mistake," Admiral Ross replied, "is assuming you understand our weapons." Slick's smile widened. "We understand them perfectly. They are ancient technology, useful only against other primitives. Observe." He gestured to his weapons officer. "Fire one plasma burst at their lead ship. Show them the difference between real weapons and children's toys." A beam of superheated plasma shot from the destroyer's main cannon. It struck the human ship's hull, creating a bright flash. When the light faded, Slick expected to see twisted metal and fire. Instead, the human ship was still intact. Its armor was glowing red from the heat, but there was no hull breach. "Impossible," Captain Zek muttered. "Our plasma cannons can melt through any known armor." Admiral Ross smiled on the screen. "Your energy weapons are designed to heat and melt. Our armor is designed to absorb and distribute thermal energy. We have been fighting with both kinetic and energy weapons for generations." Slick felt a moment of doubt, but quickly pushed it aside. "One lucky shot means nothing. Your armor may resist our weakest plasma setting, but you still cannot harm us. Your kinetic weapons will bounce off our shields like raindrops." "You think so?" Admiral Ross asked. "All human ships, this is Admiral Ross. Prepare to fire. Show our guests why we still use kinetic weapons." Slick watched as the human ships moved into formation. Their movements were smooth and coordinated, not the clumsy efforts he had expected from primitives. The orbital platforms also turned to face the Vex fleet, their large cannons tracking individual ships. "Sir," called the sensor operator, "the Humans are charging their weapons. Energy buildup detected in their kinetic cannons. Energy buildup? Slick frowned. They are just metal throwers. How can they build up energy? Unknown, sir. The readings are unusual, much higher than expected for simple kinetic weapons. Slick leaned forward in his chair. Something was wrong. The humans were too calm, too confident. But it was too late to back down now. His entire fleet was watching, and the reputation of the Vex Empire was at stake. All ships, prepare for battle, he ordered. Charge shields to maximum. Target their largest ships first. On the screen, Admiral Ross gave his own orders. All ships, you are free to engage. Fire at will. The human fleet opened fire simultaneously. Bright flashes erupted from their weapons, and Slick felt the destroyer shake slightly. Report, he demanded. Direct hit on our forward shields, the defense officer called out. Shield generators are... Sir, they are failing. Failing from kinetic weapons? Slick stood up from his chair. That is impossible. More impacts struck the destroyer. Each hit sent vibrations through the massive ship, and warning lights began flashing across the bridge. Sir, the projectiles are moving at incredible speeds, the sensor operator reported. Much faster than any kinetic weapon should be capable of. They are not just metal bullets, they are accelerated to significant fractions of light speed. Slick stared at the main screen in disbelief. His energy shields, designed to deflect plasma and absorb directed energy attacks, were being torn apart by simple metal projectiles. But these were not simple. They were moving so fast that they carried enormous kinetic energy. How are they accelerating them to such speeds? Captain Zek asked. Electromagnetic acceleration. Admiral Ross's voice came from the communication channel. Railguns, magnetic launchers, gravitational slingshots. We have had centuries to perfect kinetic weapon technology while you focused on energy weapons. Another salvo from the human fleet struck the Vex ships. Slick watched in horror as one of his destroyers had its forward section completely torn away by a tungsten rod moving at tremendous velocity. Sir, the humans are targeting our weapon arrays, someone called out. They know exactly where to hit us. Admiral Ross appeared calm on the screen. You designed your ships to withstand energy attacks. Your armor can disperse heat and absorb radiation. But you forgot about simple momentum and mass. Slick's mind raced. The humans had not failed to advance beyond primitive weapons. They had advanced the primitive weapons themselves, making them faster, more accurate, and more devastating than any energy weapon. The Vex flagship destroyer shook violently as another tungsten rod punched through its failing shields. Commander Slick gripped his command chair, his yellow eyes wide with disbelief. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically at their stations as warning alarms screamed throughout the massive ship. Damage report! Slick roared over the noise. Forward shields at 15%. Called the defense officer, his green scales pale with fear. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. The humans are tearing us apart. On the main screen, Slick could see the human fleet continuing their devastating attack. The ships moved with precision, each one firing their kinetic weapons at different targets. Every shot found its mark, sending tungsten rods and steel projectiles through Vex armor like it was made of paper. Sir, the Ravager is reporting critical damage, Captain Zek announced. Their main reactor is failing. Slick watched in horror as one of his finest destroyers listed to one side, atmosphere streaming from dozens of holes in its hull. The ship had been designed to withstand the most powerful plasma cannons in the galaxy, but these simple metal projectiles were destroying it with ease. How is this possible? Slick muttered. They are just throwing metal at us. Captain Blake of the human cruiser Hammer appeared on a secondary screen. The human looked calm and professional, not like someone fighting for his life. Commander Slick, Blake said in a steady voice, You seem confused about our weapons. Allow me to explain. Another salvo of kinetic rounds struck the destroyer. The ship's lights flickered and several control panels exploded in showers of sparks. Your shields are designed to deflect energy, Blake continued. They spread out plasma beams and absorb particle radiation. Very effective against energy weapons. A Vex cruiser exploded in the distance, its reactor overloading after a railgun round punched through its core. Slick felt sick watching his proud fleet being destroyed by weapons he had mocked just hours before. But kinetic energy is different, Blake explained. A piece of tungsten moving at 40% of light speed does not care about your energy. Shields, it carries momentum, mass, and velocity. When it hits your ship, all that energy has to go somewhere. The science officer at Slick's left turned from his station. Sir, the humans are using electromagnetic acceleration. Their railguns are launching projectiles at incredible speeds. The kinetic energy is enormous. Slick's mouth opened, but no words came out. His species had developed beyond kinetic weapons thousands of years ago. They had forgotten the simple truth that mass times velocity equals devastating force. Return fire! He finally managed to shout. All ships, target the human vessels. The remaining Vex ships turned their plasma cannons on the human fleet. Beams of superheated energy lanced across space, striking the human ships' hulls. But instead of melting through the armor as expected, the plasma beams spread across specially designed surfaces. Captain Blake smiled on the screen. Heat dissipation armor. We have been dealing with both kinetic and energy weapons for centuries. Your plasma just makes our ships glow for a few minutes. Impossible. Slick slammed his fist on his chair's armrest. No armor can resist our plasma cannons. Your plasma weapons heat up our armor, Blake replied calmly. But heat can be channeled, dispersed, and radiated away. We learned that lesson, fighting each other before we reached the stars. The human ship Defiance, Admiral Ross's flagship, fired its main railgun. The projectile crossed the distance between ships in less than a second, striking a Vex battlecruiser directly in its reactor section. The entire ship disappeared in a brilliant explosion. Sir, the communications officer called out. The Punisher is requesting permission to retreat. They have lost all weapons and their life support is failing. Slick stared at the tactical display. In less than 20 minutes, his fleet of 200 ships had been reduced to fewer than 150. The humans had lost only 3 ships, and those were still fighting with reduced capability. How are they so accurate? Captain Zek asked in amazement. Their targeting systems must be incredibly advanced. On the screen, Captain Blake heard the question. Actually, our targeting is fairly simple. We use basic physics and mathematics. When you have been fighting wars with kinetic weapons for thousands of years, you learn how to hit what you aim at. Another group of Vex ships tried to close the distance, hoping to overwhelm the humans with superior numbers. But the human ships moved with surprising agility, their formations flowing like water on the attacking aliens. Sir, they are using gravitational assists, the navigation officer reported. They are using our own ship's mass to change direction. How did they learn to fight like this? The human cruiser Iron Will demonstrated the technique, using a disabled Vex destroyer as a pivot point to swing around and attack from an unexpected angle. Its railgun fired 3 times in rapid succession, each shot hitting a different target. We fight like this, Admiral Ross's voice came over the communication channel, because we have been fighting each other for our entire history. Every human war taught us new lessons about combat, tactics, and survival. Slick watched as more of his ships fell to the relentless human assault. The aliens had superior technology, bigger ships, and more powerful individual weapons. But the humans fought with a coordination and ruthlessness that spoke of countless generations of warfare. "They are predators," whispered the science officer. "Look how they move, how they coordinate their attacks. They have been fighting and killing for millennia." A human destroyer, much smaller than any Vex ship, took on 3 enemy cruisers simultaneously. It used its speed and maneuverability to stay out of their firing arcs, while systematically destroying their weapon systems with precise kinetic strikes. "Sir, the humans are not just using railguns," the weapons officer reported with growing fear. "They have missile systems, explosive projectiles, and something they call kinetic kill vehicles. All of them use momentum and mass as weapons." Slick realized the terrible truth. The Galactic Council had laughed at human weapons because they seemed primitive. But primitive did not mean ineffective. A sharp stick could kill just as surely as a plasma rifle, and the humans had spent centuries making their sticks sharper, faster, and more accurate. "They never abandoned kinetic weapons," he said quietly. "They perfected them." The battle continued to rage around them, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The Vex Empire's technological superiority meant nothing against enemies who understood that the oldest weapons were often the most reliable. Captain Blake's image remained on the screen, watching as the proud Vex fleet was systematically destroyed by weapons they had considered obsolete. "Commander Slick," Blake said, "you made one fundamental error in your calculations." "What error?" Slick asked, his voice barely a whisper. "You assumed that advancement meant abandonment," Blake replied. "We did not stop using kinetic weapons when we developed energy weapons. We made both types better." The destroyer shuddered again as another tungsten rod found its mark. The news of the Vex fleet's destruction spread across the galaxy faster than light travel itself. In the crystalline towers of the Core 7 homeworld, millions of living crystal beings watched the battle recordings in stunned silence. The musical harmony that usually filled their cities had become discordant and confused. Core Prime, the eldest of their species, studied the footage frame by frame. Its crystal body pulsed with different colors as it processed the information. Around it, hundreds of other core beings waited for analysis. "The humans used basic kinetic principles," Core Prime announced, its voice creating perfect harmonic notes. "Mass times velocity equals force. We forgot this simple equation in our pursuit of energy manipulation." On the insectoid world of the Hive, Queen Nyx watched the same recordings with her 1,000 compound eyes. Her royal chamber buzzed with the sound of worker drones, bringing her reports from across the galaxy. Every species was asking the same question: how had primitive human weapons defeated advanced Vex technology? "Bring me our military scientists," Queen Nyx commanded, her voice creating vibrations that echoed through the Hive tunnels. "I want to understand these human weapons immediately." 3 days later, Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in a conference room aboard the human research station, Deep Space Nine. Around her sat military observers from 12 different alien species, each one trying to understand how their fundamental assumptions about warfare had been proven wrong. Dr. Rodriguez was a small woman with short brown hair and tired eyes. She had spent the last 72 hours answering questions from alien scientists who could not believe what they had witnessed. "The principle is simple," she explained to the gathered aliens. "Kinetic energy is the energy of motion. The formula is 1/2 mass times velocity squared. Double the velocity and you quadruple the energy." A thin, gray alien with large black eyes raised one long finger. "But our energy weapons are more efficient. They require less power to operate and can be fired continuously." Dr. Rodriguez nodded. "Energy weapons have many advantages. They travel at light speed, they can be precisely controlled, and they do not require ammunition. But they also have weaknesses." She activated a holographic projector, showing 2 ships firing at each other. One used plasma beams, the other used kinetic projectiles. Energy weapons can be deflected, absorbed, or dispersed, she continued. A good energy shield can protect against plasma, particle beams, and directed radiation. But kinetic weapons work differently. The hologram showed a tungsten rod striking an energy shield. Instead of being deflected, the projectile passed straight through and punched a hole in the ship's hull. A shield designed to stop energy cannot stop mass, Dr. Rodriguez explained. The rod carries momentum. It has to go somewhere. Usually, that somewhere is through your ship. Queen Nyx's representative, a smaller insectoid called Worker 7, buzzed with confusion. But kinetic weapons are slower. Our computers can track them and shoot them down. That was true with old kinetic weapons, Dr. Rodriguez agreed. Chemical propulsion has limits, but electromagnetic acceleration does not. We can launch projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. She changed the hologram to show a railgun firing. The metal projectile accelerated down a long barrel, pushed by powerful magnetic fields. Railguns use electricity to create magnetic fields, she explained. The projectile becomes part of an electrical circuit. The magnetic forces push it faster and faster until it leaves the barrel at incredible speed. A floating jellyfish-like creature pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. Its translator device spoke in a watery voice. How fast can these projectiles travel? Our best railguns can accelerate projectiles to 40% of light speed, Dr. Rodriguez answered. At that velocity, a small piece of tungsten carries more kinetic energy than your largest plasma cannons. The aliens looked at each other with what Dr. Rodriguez recognized as worry. Their advanced civilizations had been built on the assumption that energy weapons were superior to kinetic ones. Now they were learning that assumption was wrong. Core 7's representative, a smaller crystal being called Fragment 9, chimed the question. Why did you not abandon kinetic weapons when you developed energy technology? Dr. Rodriguez smiled sadly. Because humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. Every time we developed a new weapon, someone else developed a defense against it. We learned that diversity in weapons gives you options. She showed another hologram, this one displaying a human warship. The ship carried both plasma cannons and railguns, energy shields, and thick armor plating. When your enemy has energy shields, you use kinetic weapons, she explained. When they have kinetic armor, you use energy weapons. When they have both, you use whatever works best for each target. Colonel Davis, a tall human officer with gray hair, stood up from his chair at the back of the room. He had been listening quietly, but now he stepped forward to address the aliens. You want to know why our weapons work so well, he asked. It is not because they are better than yours. It is because we never stopped improving them. He pointed to the hologram of the human warship. While you were perfecting energy weapons, we were perfecting violence itself. We did not choose between kinetic and energy weapons. We chose both. The gray alien with large eyes leaned forward. But surely energy weapons are more advanced? More sophisticated? Colonel Davis shook his head. Advanced does not always mean better. A sharp stick can kill you just as dead as a plasma rifle. The difference is that we spent centuries making our sticks sharper, faster, and more accurate. Dr. Rodriguez activated another hologram, showing human military history. It displayed weapons from different time periods: spears, arrows, muskets, rifles, cannons, missiles, and finally rail guns. Human weapons evolved continuously, she said. Each generation improved on the last. We never threw away old ideas just because we had new ones. We combined them. Queen Nyx's representative buzzed with what might have been admiration. You mean humans use both primitive and advanced technology together? Exactly, Colonel Davis replied. A human soldier might carry a plasma rifle, kinetic grenades, and a metal knife. Each tool has its purpose. The alien observer sat quietly, processing this information. Their species had developed along different paths, always seeking more elegant and efficient solutions. They had abandoned crude weapons in favor of sophisticated ones, never thinking that crude weapons might still have value. Fragment 9 pulsed, with different colors as it spoke. We believed that technological advancement meant leaving primitive methods behind. That was your mistake, Dr. Rodriguez said gently. Advancement should mean adding new tools to your collection, not throwing away the old ones that still work. The floating jellyfish creatures' bioluminescent patterns changed rapidly. How long have humans been developing kinetic weapons? Colonel Davis smiled grimly. Since the first human picked up a rock and threw it at something. We have been throwing things at our enemies for over 1 million years. We just got better at it. The room fell silent as the aliens contemplated this revelation. They had laughed at human weapons because they seemed primitive, never realizing that primitiveness did not mean ineffectiveness. 1 year had passed since the Battle of New Terra. The massive Galactic Council chamber looked the same as before, but everything had changed. Ambassador Tom Bradley walked through the same doors he had entered 12 months ago, but this time, the aliens did not laugh when they saw him. The floating platform still held representatives from dozens of species, but now their eyes showed respect instead of amusement. The tall, thin beings with gray skin watched him carefully. The thick, hairy creatures with 4 arms nodded politely as he passed. Even the floating jellyfish-like beings pulsed with colors that his translator said meant greeting and honor. Tom stepped onto the central platform, carrying the same briefcase he had brought before. But this time, he was not alone. General Kane walked beside him, wearing his dress uniform covered with medals from Earth's military campaigns. "Welcome back, Ambassador Bradley," said Commander Slick from his platform above. The reptilian alien looked different now. His scales bore new scars from the battle, and his yellow eyes held a respect that had not been there before. "We are honored to have you address the Council again." Tom pressed the button on his briefcase, and the holographic projector rose from the platform. "Thank you, Commander Slick. I am here today to discuss humanity's proposal for mutual defense cooperation." The first hologram appeared above him. It showed blueprints for a railgun system, with detailed technical specifications displayed alongside it. "These are the plans for our Mark 7 electromagnetic launcher," Tom announced. "We are prepared to share this technology with Council members in exchange for full membership and access to your energy shielding research." A year ago, such an offer would have been met with laughter. Now, the chamber was completely silent as alien scientists studied the holographic blueprints with intense interest. Hive Queen Nyx leaned forward on her platform. "What are the specifications for this weapon system?" she asked, her buzzing voice filled with professional curiosity rather than mockery. General Kane stepped forward to answer. "Muzzle velocity of 42% light speed. Effective range of 12 million kilometers. Can penetrate any known energy shield and most armor types." The crystalline being Core 7 chimed with musical notes that Tom's translator interpreted as impressed appreciation. "We would be very interested in examining the electromagnetic acceleration principles. In exchange, we offer our quantum energy matrices." Tom nodded. "We believe combining human kinetic technology with alien energy systems will create the most effective defense platforms in the galaxy." Around the chamber, alien representatives were talking quietly among themselves. Tom could hear fragments of their conversations through his translator. They were discussing production costs, installation timeframes, and tactical applications. A delegate from the back of the chamber stood up. Tom recognized the being as Admiral Reef from the Aquatic Federation, a species that lived in the ocean worlds of the outer spiral. "Ambassador Bradley," Admiral Reef said in his watery voice, "our fleets have already begun installing kinetic weapon systems based on recovered Vex battle recordings. However, our versions are not as effective as human designs. That is because Kinetic weapons require more than just technology, General Kane replied. They require understanding of physics, material science, and practical experience. We have been refining these weapons for centuries. Tom activated another hologram, showing a human training facility where soldiers practiced with various weapons. We are prepared to establish joint training programs. Human instructors can teach your military forces how to use kinetic weapons effectively. The small, round alien with purple fur that had mocked humanity before now spoke with obvious eagerness. Our engineers have tried to copy your railgun designs, but the magnetic field generators keep overloading. Could human technicians assist with installation? Of course, Tom replied. We believe in sharing knowledge that helps protect all peaceful species. Commander Slick cleared his throat, creating a sound like grinding stone. Ambassador, there is another matter we must discuss. The Vex Empire has agreed to pay reparations for their unprovoked attack on human colonies. Tom raised an eyebrow. This was unexpected news. What form will these reparations take? He asked. Technology transfer, Slick answered. Vex plasma weapon designs, shield generators, and faster-than-light communication systems. Additionally, the Empire offers a formal alliance with humanity. General Kane smiled slightly. The same Empire that laughed at our weapons now wants to be our ally? Slick's expression remained serious. The same Empire that learned to respect human military capabilities. We underestimated your species, and we paid a heavy price for that mistake. Tom looked around the chamber. Everywhere he turned, he saw aliens who had changed their opinions about humanity. The beings who had once found human weapons amusing now treated them as serious military technology. There is something else, announced Queen Nyx. The Insectoid Collective has voted to adopt human military doctrine for our ground forces. We want to learn how to fight the way humans fight. What does that mean exactly? General Kane asked. Queen Nyx's compound eyes reflected the chamber's lights as she explained. Human soldiers use multiple weapon types. They adapt their tactics to each situation. They fight with both technology and instinct. We want our warriors to learn these methods. Fragment 9, the crystal being representing Core 7, chimed with harmonic frequencies. Our species has also voted to study human combat psychology. We wish to understand how your people remain calm and effective in battle. Tom felt a surge of pride. A year ago, these same beings had treated humans like primitive children. Now they wanted to learn from human military experience. We are willing to share our knowledge, Tom said. But we want something in return beyond technology. What do you require? Commander Slick asked. Full voting membership in the Galactic Council, General Kane answered. Not protected status, not observer status, but equal membership with all the rights and responsibilities that includes. The chamber erupted in conversation as alien delegates discussed this demand. Tom waited patiently while they debated among themselves. Finally, Core 7's representative chimed for attention. The Council has discussed this matter extensively over the past year. We are prepared to offer humanity full membership. Tom felt his heart racing, but he kept his expression calm. What changed your minds? You proved that human military thinking is valuable, Admiral Reef replied. Your species understands warfare in ways we had forgotten. We need that knowledge. Commander Slick stood up on his platform. The Vex Empire seconds the motion for human membership. We have learned the hard way that underestimating humanity is a dangerous mistake. One by one, the other species added their voices to the vote. The tall gray beings, the four-armed creatures, the floating jellyfish, and dozens of other species all agreed. Humanity would become a full member of the Galactic Council. Tom opened his briefcase and pulled out a datapad containing the formal membership documents. Then let us begin working together. The galaxy is a dangerous place, And we are stronger when we combine our different strengths. General Kane looked around the chamber with satisfaction. The same aliens who had laughed at human weapons now wanted to learn from them. Respect had replaced mockery, and partnership had replaced condescension. The laughter had indeed stopped. In its place was something far more valuable: recognition that sometimes the oldest solutions were still the best ones.